It was supposed to be an ordinary flight, a simple journey across the ocean. But by the time the world realized what had happened, the flight had already rewritten the map of history. On the morning of August 17, 1954, a Lockheed Constellation aircraft lifted off from Tokyo, Japan, heading west toward Alaska. On board were 62 passengers, 8 crew members, and a mysterious cargo whose details were never officially disclosed. For most of its journey, everything seemed perfectly normal. The sky was clear, communication steady, and the crew confident. But at precisely 4:12 p.m., something impossible happened. The plane's radar signature vanished. Not faded, not weakened, vanished. No distress signal, no mayday, no sign of engine failure. Just gone. Military tracking stations in Japan, the Philippines, and even Hawaii scrambled to locate the aircraft. But there was nothing. For 27 minutes, Flight N707's existence was erased from every radar screen on Earth. And then, just as suddenly, it reappeared thousands of kilometers off course, over the middle of the Pacific Ocean, flying calmly at cruising altitude as if nothing had happened. Air traffic controllers were stunned. The pilots sounded confused but calm. When asked about the radar disappearance, the captain replied, "We were never gone." That was the moment investigators realized something far stranger was at play. When the aircraft landed in Anchorage, Alaska, the ground crew and customs officers began standard inspection procedures. Everything looked fine until they checked the flight logs. The onboard chronometers showed a total flight time of 7 hours and 58 minutes, consistent with the normal duration. But the ground-based radar and clock data indicated over 8 hours and 25 minutes had passed. Somewhere during that flight, the plane had gained or lost nearly 30 minutes of time. The confusion deepened when the crew attempted to identify their exact flight path. The captain's chart, meticulously marked during the journey, didn't match any known air route. The coordinates led to a region in the Pacific that, according to every map, should have been open ocean. Yet, according to the pilot, they had flown over a chain of islands, green, uninhabited, but clearly visible. Those islands didn't exist. For the next 3 weeks, American and Japanese authorities conducted a joint investigation. They assumed the crew was mistaken, perhaps an illusion caused by clouds, or fatigue. But when satellite photography was reviewed, something chilling appeared. A faint outline of land masses in the exact coordinates described by the pilot. The islands were gone now, covered entirely by water. But the imagery hinted that once, something had been there. The U.S. Geological Survey examined the area and found no known volcanic or tectonic events that could explain the island's sudden submersion. Still, the official report quietly labeled it optical error. But deep inside classified files, military analysts began calling it something else, the Phantom Archipelago, and that was only the beginning. Months later, during routine debriefing, co-pilot Raymond Harris mentioned something strange. His magnetic compass had started spinning uncontrollably around the time they disappeared from radar. The plane's altimeter dropped suddenly, showing a descent, even though the horizon looked stable. For nearly half an hour, they were flying through a haze that glowed faintly, not like clouds, not like lightning, but as if the sky itself had changed color. Then suddenly, everything cleared up, and they were back in normal airspace. None of the passengers noticed anything unusual to them. It was just turbulence. But for the crew, it felt like reality itself had shifted. Investigators found one more anomaly. The aircraft's onboard navigation clock, an atomic calibrated device meant to never drift, was 17 minutes behind the world standard. Every single instrument in that plane had lost time. Rumors began circulating in aviation circles. Some said the flight had accidentally passed through a time dilation zone, a region where magnetic forces warped space-time. Others claimed the aircraft had somehow entered a parallel pocket of Earth, a place where geography was subtly different, an older map of the planet, before coastlines changed. A journalist from the Tokyo Tribune published an article titled "The Flight That Rewrote the Map." The phrase stuck. Soon, conspiracy theorists, scientists, and military insiders were all chasing the same mystery. How could a plane fly over islands that no longer exist and return with clocks that no longer matched the world's time? In 1955, an American research vessel was dispatched to the same coordinates. The expedition reported no land, no shallow water, nothing but ocean. But their sonar picked up something unexpected. A massive stone structure resting 600 feet below the surface. It looked man-made. Divers sent down later described what seemed like pillars and stair-like formations, eerily similar to ruins found in ancient civilizations. The discovery was quietly sealed by the Navy under national security classification. Unconfirmed leaks later suggested the structure's layout matched old maps drawn by Portuguese explorers in the 1400s, maps that depicted islands now missing from modern charts. It was as if Flight N707 had flown over a version of Earth that existed centuries ago and somehow returned to the present. By 1958, the story was dismissed publicly as a hoax, but in secret, the U.S. Air Force began studying magnetic anomalies across the Pacific. One such anomaly, known as Zone 54, lay just 80 miles from the coordinates reported by the missing flight. Within that zone, compasses behaved erratically, communication often failed, and pilots described bizarre visual distortions. One Air Force pilot described it best: "It's like the sky folds in on itself. You see the horizon curve, then everything resets." Sound familiar? Zone 54 was eventually declassified in 1979, but the files related to Flight N707 remained locked until 2003. When a retired technician named Mark Olson revealed a forgotten recording from the Anchorage control tower. The recording captured the final radio exchange before the flight disappeared. Controller, Flight N707, confirm heading west by northwest. Pilot, confirmed. Visual on coaster broken bar, wait others land ahead. Controller, negative. You should be over open ocean. Pilot, a broken bar, then what am I seeing? Static. Then silence. 27 minutes later, the radar blip returned hundreds of miles away. Scientists have since attempted to explain the phenomenon. Some point to the Hutchinson effect, a theoretical event where electromagnetic interference bends light and distorts perception. Others believe it could be a form of temporary spatial displacement, similar to what astronauts experience when passing through zones of high geomagnetic activity. But none of that explains why the pilot's maps contained accurate sketches of islands that only appeared in centuries-old atlases drawn long before modern navigation. Years later, a discovery in Spain reignited the mystery. A cartographer studying 15th century maritime charts found a near-identical outline of the islands described by Flight N707's captain. The names on the map were Antilia and St. Anna's, mythical lands said to have sunk long before the age of exploration. Historians had always considered them legend until this flight seemingly confirmed they once existed. Could it be that, for a brief moment, the plane crossed into a version of the Earth where those lands still stood? By 1970, all surviving crew members had retired. Most refused to speak publicly. But one, the flight engineer, gave a single interview. He said, "When we entered that cloud, I felt weightless. My instruments went dead, but my body, it felt like gravity itself had turned sideways. Then, outside the window, I saw something glowing in the water below. It wasn't reflection, it was like the ocean itself was alive." He described lights beneath the surface, forming geometric patterns, circles, triangles, grids. Moments later, they were back on course, as if nothing had happened. In 1989, a deep-sea probe scanning that same section of the Pacific recorded unusual electromagnetic pulses, rhythmic, structured, repeating every 27 minutes. That number again. Coincidence, or something intentional? Whatever it was, it mirrored the exact duration that Flight N707 had been missing from radar. Today, satellite data still shows mild gravitational anomalies around that zone. No islands, no ruins, but something about the seafloor that resists mapping. Every time sensors pass over, their readings distort, as if the ocean itself refuses to be measured. And that brings us to the final, haunting clue. In 2017, a group of independent researchers in Japan discovered fragments of an old aircraft wing aluminium, 1950 resting on the seabed, nearly 200 miles from the flight's known route. But when analyzed, the metal showed unusual isotopic ratios, 8 traces of radiation not consistent with Earth's atmospheric exposure. Almost as if the plane, or parts of it, had spent time somewhere else. So what really happened to Flight N707, the flight that rewrote the map? Was it caught in a magnetic storm that altered perception and time? Did it slip through a hidden fracture in space, revealing a glimpse of a forgotten Earth? Or was it part of a secret experiment, one never meant to be seen by the public? We may never know for sure. But one thing is certain: every major aviation authority quietly changed flight routes after that incident, avoiding the same coordinates to this day. Officially, it's due to turbulence. Unofficially, they know something we don't. Decades later, when modern pilots fly near that region, their instruments sometimes flicker, GPS glitches, compasses spin, and on rare nights, satellites capture faint, shifting shadows beneath the waves, shadows that look like coastlines, like islands trying to return. Perhaps those islands aren't gone at all. Perhaps they're waiting in another layer of time, another version of the world, for the skies to open again. The flight that vanished and reappeared may have done more than survive a mystery. It may have reminded humanity that our world isn't as stable as we think, that the Earth we know might be only one of many. And sometimes a broken bar, the sky itself, becomes a doorway that only opens once in a lifetime, a doorway that one plane, long ago, accidentally crossed and returned, carrying proof that our maps, our histories, and our understanding of reality, a broken bar, might never have been complete. Because somewhere in the vast Pacific, beneath endless waves and forgotten time, the echoes of that flight still remain, rewriting the map, over and over again.